Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody out there, to the Tuesday Tiger Recruiting Show, brought to you as it is every single Tuesday by Brandon Barnes at you. After a brief interruption, we welcome you back to the Tuesday Tiger Recruiting Show. Don't know what happened there, other than apparently my internet broke. I don't know if Brandon Barnes can fix your internet. He can fix your home mortgage and maybe save you money to get you better internet. You can give that a shot. Brandon's contact info down there, all to your left in the little blue rectangle, 573-818-2772 or 573-590-0001. With that, we are going to bring in our resident expert, or at least the guy we have on the show every week, Sean Williams, recruiting editor here at Power Mizzou. And Sean, we generally go 20 to 30 minutes, so I'm curious. I'm not sure. That may be enough time for you to recite everything you know about JV and Gill. Go.
That would just take about 1 minute.
Okay. Well, you can do that, and we'll figure out how to fill the last 29.
Yeah, obviously, Missouri adding another commitment to their 2022 class out of the blue, and it very much was out of the blue. We were I love the game we were playing yesterday. Whenever we heard the news, we were trying to figure out who it could be, and nobody was right because this thing happened really quick. I mean, they offered him on Sunday night, and he committed Monday, middle of the day. So, not a lot to really know about him. Just he's a JUCO guy, and he's been at UCF. He was at UCF last spring and went through the spring, and then he decided to go back into JUCO because obviously there was a coaching change there. Heupel took the Tennessee job. Malzahn took over. Obviously, according to your interview, didn't see that as a good fit, and went back to JUCO. Missouri, I guess, somehow the interim D-line coach, Al Davis, kind of knew about him and went and watched him play earlier this year. Really impressed with him, and they offered him, and he jumped on it. I mean, and he was talking to the likes of South Florida, Coastal Carolina, and UAB. So very, out of the blue, but yet kind of head scratching as well. Because it kind of makes you think that, I think he said he's at 265 right now. So, I mean, obviously maybe they like him as an inside guy, obviously, but it kind of makes you think maybe you can wait a little bit longer and see who kind of pops in the portal, and maybe there's better options out there. So I don't know. And it's, like his stats, 25 tackles and a sack, this past season, and 49 tackles, 8 tackles for a loss, and 4 sacks, and I think 3 JUCO seasons. So, I mean, look, the coaches are better at this than we are in terms of evaluation. So, but I guess to us, it's just kind of leaves you wondering, well, okay, that's cool that they went ahead and popped on him, but I could have waited around and see what else was, kind of come up in the portal and see what better options you had, I guess.
Right. And let's be clear. Hey, these guys get paid to do this. They evaluate him. I don't know if JV and Gill's a good football player or not. I'm not going to pretend I've ever watched him play. I won't see him play a down until spring football. Right. I'm not going to study his huddle film and tell you guys whether he's good, bad, or indifferent. I have no idea. I'm not capable of doing that. So let's put that out there first. But it does strike you a little bit like when the Raiders take a punter in round 2 and you're like, I mean, that's cool, but you could have got that punter in round 5, because when you offer a kid, and he's telling us, like he did me last night, that Coastal Carolina and UAB and USF were the teams he was most talking to. Well, that tells me you could have waited 3 weeks to offer this kid. Now, hey, if they think he's good and they're worried other people are coming in, cool. I'm not saying it's a bad deal. It's just these are the questions you kind of ask. Now, the biggest question to me, and he flat out told me last night they like him as a defensive end. And here they like him on the edge. And here's what I don't quite get about that. I would think Trajan Jeffcoat's coming back next year. I don't think he's played well enough to go in the NFL draft. Isaiah McGuire's the best defensive end they've got. He's coming back next year. Travion Ford will be eligible next year. Arden Walker, Johnny Walker, Jonathan Jones, Kyron Montgomery if he doesn't bulk up and move inside. My point is, they've got a lot of guys outside. I don't know that defensive end was the place where you really needed a JUCO guy. But again, hey, they're paid to do this, and I mean, we're paid to talk about it, so we're going to talk about it. Look, the kid may come in and be an all-SEC player. I'm not writing him off before he gets here, but there are some kind of questions that it's like, that's curious. We never heard of him on Sunday night.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing. You mentioned the schools that were involved with him, schools that, look, Missouri could wait, and bring him in for an official visit if they wanted to and get a closer look at him and do all those things. And I'm not saying that still won't happen, but just before you accept a commitment or throw out an offer there, I mean, those are schools that you can sit around and beat. I mean, even if he ends up committing to like a South Florida or Coastal Carolina, I mean, hey, bring him in for it. If Missouri is going to be like, hey, we like you, we're going to bring you in for an official, he's probably going to do it. So yeah, just kind of a little bit of a head scratcher. And but hey, like I said, they, the coaches have watched him in person. They seem to know a lot about him. So here we are. Well, he might turn into a real good player, and he might be during the spring, you might, whenever fall season rolls around, be like, hey, maybe it's good little commitment there.
Mm-hmm.
So you just never know how those things work out. But we go back to, the Ben Key, Daniel Robledo situation where, they brought those guys in and they haven't seen the field yet. So you just hope it doesn't, turn into a situation like that, because that's already happened twice among the JUCO ranks in last year's class. So.
Yeah, so that's the commitment. They're at 16 now. We anticipate, I don't know, no more than probably about 4 more before the early signing period would be my guess. I don't think they're going to go much over 20 in mid-December. Had some guys in last weekend, unofficial visits, largely 2023 kids. I know that Andrew Paul was supposed to be here. I don't know, Sean, that we've had a chance to catch up with him or not, but
Yeah,
I think a big deal.
I was able to confirm he was there. He's very difficult to get a hold of. He did get back to me on Twitter, said he really liked his visit, great staff, everything like that. I asked him some follow-up questions, haven't heard back. But he said it is an unofficial visit for him over the weekend, which that's kind of a good thing. I mean, to have somebody come up and kind of pay their own dime to come up and check out, your program, it's always a good thing. I know with Andrew Paul, he's kind of, Missouri was kind of the first, like kind of Power 5 team to kind of jump in there, because everything was pretty quiet with him, just kind of reiterating what we've talked about with him previously. But, he was pretty quiet from the summer on, and then you didn't really see a lot of recruiting news with him happening. And then all of a sudden Missouri kind of jumps in there with an offer, and he's gotten some pretty good offers since then. Namely, the two that kind of stick out, I guess, is Michigan State, Auburn. I know Auburn wants him to come in for an official visit. I know Michigan State probably wants to do the same. So this is going to be kind of, with Paul, he's going to take visits. And I'm not sure if he's going to sign early, if he's going to wait a little bit later. It's something I'm trying to figure out with him. But he's got other options. He's going to check those out as well.
All right. One other 2022 kid I just want to throw out there, and we'll move on to your questions here in a minute, guys. Appreciate those of you who are watching along live. And if you've got questions, put them over in the comment queue, and we will get to him after this. And I want to be clear that this is sheer speculation on my part. I have absolutely no idea if Missouri has any interest in this kid. But I posted on our board yesterday, a kid named Sevian Morrison was a running back at Nebraska, had like 120 yards rushing as a true freshman, entered the transfer portal yesterday. I only mention it because he's a kid from Tulsa that Missouri offered last year. He knows J.J. Hester. He knows Isaiah McGuire. Those guys follow him on Twitter and such. If they're looking for a running back in the 2022 class, and especially maybe if they get the feeling it's not going the right direction with Andrew Paul, to me, that's a guy that maybe is at least worth some consideration. And I want to be clear. I'm making this up. I have no idea if Missouri's interested in him, but it just caught my eye yesterday.
Hey, speculation topics are the best kind of podcast topics right now. So, I mean, but no, you bring up, that's a good point. I have actually sent him a message, haven't heard back from Savion. So, but it is something to kind of keep an eye on. Your Missouri's going to take another running back. They had Andrew Paul in. They want to try to get DeAnthony Gadsden in for an official. And there's another option right there. Like you said, he's got those Tulsa ties with those kids and that are already on the roster. So definitely would be something to look after and look into.
Yeah. All right. So we're gonna hit up some of your guys' questions, and Scott started out with the basketball question. We'll get to it after we let Sean go. Sean, was like we talk football with Sean here. I'll do some of the basketball recruiting stuff because there is a little bit going on that we'll talk about in a minute. Zach kind of sums up all Mizzou fans' feelings right now. At least softball season starts soon, so that's where they're at. Jake wants to know. Seems like some recent buzz on Burks and Reichert in 23. Some crystal ball went in. Pauses for remarks about crystal ball predictions. Sean, would you like to make any comments about crystal ball predictions? Because those almost look to me like somebody misinterpreted, hey, Logan Reichert and Marvin Burks are visiting for the Missouri game, and instead of like putting in that they were visiting, they put in a prediction that they were going to commit, because I don't really see any reason to have done that last week.
Yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere. And I mean, I know Reichert was visiting. I mean, Reichert's been in the camp to quite a few games this year. And, Burks is really high on Missouri, but Burks is picking up more offers of late. And I think he might have just went to Nebraska, I think. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, that's where the buzz is, and that's what, that's what those crystal balls are for, to create buzz and make us talk about it. But I mean, honestly, if I felt confident about one of those two, I definitely feel more confident about Reichert. I mean, he's just been to a lot of games. He's got a lot of Missouri ties with his family. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was one of the first commitments in the 2023 class. Burks, kind of get a feeling maybe he'll look around, but I think Missouri's in a good spot with him right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Logan Reichert decided to do something next month, obviously. I mean, the staff's going to be on the road in December. I know they're going to hit up some 2023 kids on, kind of school visits and things like that. I'm sure Logan Reichert will be near the top of the list. Wouldn't shock me if he did something then. Depressed Mizzou fan, again, back today, still depressed, unfortunately. Wants to know, who's your favorite recruit currently uncommitted that you think Mizzou has a good chance at? Sean, I can't speak for you. My favorite recruits are the ones who answer messages. Like, I texted JV and Gill. He texted me back 10 minutes later, said, I can talk right now. He's my favorite recruit right now.
I like that. I mean, honestly, it's really hard. I guess I would probably say just Andrew Paul, just because he's had a big senior season. He doesn't necessarily get back to me in a prompt manner or give me a lot of great responses. But just in terms of, I guess, splash, sizzle, etc. I mean, he's had a really good senior season, and obviously running backs. It's one of those positions where you get the ball a lot if you're really good. So I would throw his name out there. But yeah, it's kind of funny. The ones that talk to you are the ones we like the most. But and it's really hard, to bring up a kid like Andrew Paul. I mean, he's talking to a lot of coaches right now. They're trying to get him to visit. So the last thing he probably really wants to do is talk to somebody like me. So it's really hard to get feedback from some of those guys, especially these late risers that are seniors, where they've got a bunch of offers recently and they've got a lot of, coaches kind of trying to push him, build a relationship with him and try to get him on campus. So, the last thing a lot of these kids want to do is talk to recruiting analysts like me. So,
well, Sean, I think you got to quit underselling yourself, man. You're an excellent conversationalist. It's my favorite 30 minutes of the week every Tuesday talking to you. So,
I sense a lot of enthusiasm in your voice right there, man.
All right. The Magic Man wants to know if Mizzou is trying to flip Kyan Roberts-Day, who's committed to Baylor. No indication they are. I think Missouri moved on from him, and he's nonstop tweeting out how committed he is to Baylor. That one, ship sailed on both sides there.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything about that. And like I said, he seems pretty solid to Baylor, and Baylor's having a great season right now. They just knocked off Oklahoma. So I think he's pretty excited to be there. Now, I know maybe there's some conversations that their head coach might be a USC candidate, but we'll see. I mean, Who knows? But if things like that happen and they want to add another tight end type of guy, then maybe that happens. But we haven't heard anything about it right now.
Yeah. Magic Man also asking about Deion Walker. I mean, so far as I know, we haven't heard back from him since he took an official visit 2 or 3 weeks ago. I heard before that it was Mizzou and Kentucky, but I haven't heard anything else.
Right. Same thing here. Reached out to him, haven't heard back. Been pretty quiet since he's been to Missouri. So kind of curious where that's going to go and try to do a little bit more digging there. But yeah, I think it's kind of more, and just to say, Missouri and Kentucky, we kind of heard that. I think he brought it up that maybe Michigan, Michigan State, those type of schools have kind of backed off on him a little bit there. So.
Okay, then Jake wants to know, does Mizzou have a burden level target in 2023? I don't think there's anybody quite like that. I mean, Miles McVay is like a top 25 kid. Reichert and Caden Green are top 50 to 100. But there's nobody in the top 10 that we know of that Missouri is necessarily in on at this point. There's not a local guy in the top 10, and that's kind of the qualification. And does a spot open up for Gentry Williams if Riley heads to LSU? Look, Gentry Williams is a Tulsa kid. I don't think he's going to OU because it's Lincoln Riley. I think he's going to OU because it's OU, and it's right down the road. And it's I mean, if Lincoln Riley leaves, they are not going to cease being one of the top 10 programs in college football, which they have been legitimately, no exaggeration, for 65 years now, 70 years. So I don't really think so on that.
Yeah, I mean, if Lincoln Riley leaves to USC, then Oklahoma becomes the newest hot ticket among the head coaching, searches. So, they're just going to reload there, and they'll find somebody that's really good to replace Lincoln Riley. So
yeah, exactly. Kyle wants to know about Samuel Mpemba. I mean, he's coming in town this weekend, or at least last we knew, according to his Twitter, he was. That's all we know at this point. I'm sure we will attempt to get a hold of him after that, and results will be mixed.
Yeah, nothing new there. He's coming in. I know he told our Miami site recently he's thinking about committing in the next month or two. So that's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, Missouri getting the visits big, so we'll see what happens.
Jake also points out that Deion Walker is apparently taking an official visit to Georgia this weekend. I would not think that's excellent for Missouri's chances.
I would think probably not, yeah. Yeah. I mean, the stiffer the competition, especially when you're going to the number one team in the nation and they're courting you pretty hard. Yeah, that's probably going to be pretty tough for Missouri. So, yeah, I mean, obviously when, things aren't, things are kind of quiet after his Missouri visit, you kind of realize that maybe he's not done taking other visits or he's trying to see who else gets in. So, hey, Georgia, yeah, I'd go check him out if I was him too.
Yeah, and hey, what Kirby wants on the recruiting trail, Kirby seems to pretty much get these days. I mean, I saw some stat that I seriously think Georgia and Alabama have signed more 5-stars than the rest of the country combined in like the last 3 years. It's kind of stupid, but whatever. Good for them. I mean, that's fantastic.
Nuts, man.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Other than Sean, we'll do our best to kind of drum up a list of visitors for Friday morning and the last home game of the year. But really, at this point, next week will be a little bit quiet, and then the official visits will pick up after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I don't really, like I said, we kind of said this on last week's show, but don't really see it like high-profile 2022 kids coming in this weekend for a game visit. Missouri's trying to get bowl eligible. The coaches would rather focus on that. And we'll kind of see the 2022 and how the dominoes kind of fall and who wants to come in and who is really kind of legitimately interested in Missouri and those weekends in December.
All right, so, hey, man, I know you got all kinds of things to do today. Super busy, so we're gonna let you run, and I'll finish up some basketball stuff. But thanks, Sean. We'll catch up with you, man.
Well, good luck talking about basketball. Okay.
All right, thanks, Sean. Appreciate it, man. And and like I said, I know that you guys do have basketball questions, and so that's a thing. Scott started us out with one and said, how is it possible that Konzo is so bad at recruiting big men? That's all I have today. Anything else would probably get me banned by YouTube. I understand all the frustration with basketball and its recruiting right now. None of it is out of line. None of it is necessarily off base. It is all justified. Look, we've talked a lot about this on the message board in the last, 17 hours, something like that. The issues with this program and where it is right now, and where it is a 14-point loss to UMKC that wasn't even that competitive. They were down by 20 a lot of the second half. That shouldn't happen at Missouri. Let's be clear. But if you follow recruiting, you've seen the potential for this coming. the last 3 years, right? I mean, let's run back real quick, and it might take me just a second to look this up, but I'm going to run back and run you through Missouri's last 4 recruiting classes. So in the class of 2018, they signed 3-star Christian Guest, gone before the semester was out. 3-star Xavier Pinson, who had a real nice career here and transferred out due to differences with the head coach prior to this year. 4-star Torrance Watson, great signing when it happened, didn't turn into a college player, now coming off the bench for Elon. 3-star KJ Santos. And look, that's a great example of one, guys, that, like we said at the very beginning, I don't get it. What he has basically no other offers. What's happening here? What are we missing? Well, it turned out we weren't missing anything. So do sometimes they bring in these under-the-radar kids? We were talking about Javian Gill at the beginning of this. Do sometimes they bring in these under-the-radar kids and they become great players and things that nobody – absolutely it happens. And so just because a kid doesn't have a huge offer list or doesn't have as many stars you want, that doesn't mean he's not going to turn into a player. But also, like when the first reaction is, hang on, what am I missing here? A lot of times the answer is you're not really missing anything. And that was the case with KJ Santos. Also in that class, 3-star Javon Pickett, who, all credit to Javon, he's turned himself into a hell of a player. And, not a KJ Santos situation because he was once committed to Illinois. He had other interests, right? So Pickett, clearly, he and Pinson in that class panned out. Now, Pinson left a year early, but those two guys were good players. Parker Brown came as a walk-on, got a scholarship later. I mean, a few people got unrealistic expectations for him, but they were unrealistic. Next class, 4-star Trey Jackson, transferred after his first year. 3-star Mario McKinney, transferred after his first year. 3-star Kobe Brown, turned into a nice player, no question. Good, solid starter. And then Axel Okongo. Guys, I don't have enough time on the show. Like I said, sometimes you just know. So we've got 2 recruiting classes. We've got Christian Guest, Axel Okongo, and KJ Santos that literally the day they happened, the overwhelming thought was, I'm not sure I get this. What's going on here? Then we get to the 2020 class. 3-star Jordan Wilmore, 2-star Ed Chang, who transferred out and, to our knowledge, is nowhere. 3 classes, 5 guys that literally the first reaction is, what are we missing here? Thus far, we haven't missed anything. Now we get to the 2021 class, which was this 5-man class that he just signed. Yaya Keita, Trevon Brazile, Sean Dewar-Gordon, Caleb Brown, Anton Berkshire. And when they signed that class, I said, they, like your hope, the upside in that class is that it turns into like a Denman English class. Those guys, Keith Ramsey was in that class. Those guys were all 3 stars. And your hope is, hey, maybe one of these guys becomes a star and 2 of them become pretty good players and they were underrated guys. And I said, now the difference always with those classes was that the Denman English class was joining a group that it was already an established roster. Kim English started a lot his freshman year. Marcus Denman didn't. Marcus Denman came off the bench. Lawrence Bowers barely played his freshman year. He was in that class. Those guys were brought in to be bit parts in year 1. And then in year 2 to start taking on a bigger role, which obviously they did. The problem here is these 5 guys were joining a roster that basically had Javon Pickett and Kobe Brown. And I understand they brought in transfers, but Missouri, if it was going to be any good this year, was going to need much. And remember, that Denman English class, all that, they went to an Elite 8 their freshman year. Kim English won an NCAA tournament game against Marquette from the free throw line. Marcus Denman hit a 70-footer in the Sweet 16 against Memphis. Like, they were important players on a really good team. These guys, Keita's getting a few minutes, but right now he's behind Jordan Wilmore. Sean Dewar-Gordon hasn't, I think he's played like a minute, maybe 2 minutes so far. Anton Berkshire has played, but it's clearly there's an adjustment period here. Caleb Brown's been sick. Trevon Brazile right now being held out for medical reasons that nobody can really get into. But my point is, that's a 5-man class that you're building for the future, and that's great. But because of what the roster was, you needed something this year. And it's hard to see where anything is going to come from this year out of that group. Now, the rest of the roster is, 3 mid-major transfers and a guy from Kansas State, which was a bad Power 5 or bad high major team last year. So, even if all those guys pan out, it's just hard to see right now. And my point is, the recruiting over the last 4 years has led to where, yes, last night's still a surprise. Nobody expects to lose to UMKC by 14 points, but overall, there's a reason I picked this team to be 15-17. I mean, it's, and even that obviously is shooting a little high right now. Now, there is a kid who's supposed to be on campus tomorrow, Trey King. He's a 6'9" transfer. He spent 3 years at Eastern Kentucky. I don't have his stats in front of me, but he was a good player. 3 years at Eastern Kentucky, transferred to Georgetown. Something happened there. Nobody knows exactly what, but he is no longer with Georgetown. Entered the transfer portal before playing a game. He visited Wichita State last weekend. He's visiting Iowa State this coming weekend. He will be in Columbia from Wednesday to Friday on a visit. He is certainly what this team doesn't have. A tall guy who can score inside and be a defensive presence. They don't have that right now. Yaya Keita may turn into that, but he's not that yet. Kobe Brown and Ronnie DeGray are like their post players right now. So certainly would help. He would enroll somewhere mid-year and apply for a waiver and hope to be able to play second semester. Now, second semester in basketball actually starts as soon as first semester is over. So the first game of the second semester is always Illinois. That's when mid-year transfers are generally available, sometimes one game before Illinois. So would that help? Certainly it would help. He is a one-year guy, I believe, maybe two. So that certainly would help. Even if he takes this team to another level, what's the next level? Because they just got run off their own floor by UMKC. So the question that led to all this was about big men. And yes, big men have been a problem, but overall, just the recruiting here has not been at a level where you can win important things in the SEC. I mean, if you are a Power 5 if you are a high major program, which is the 5 Power 5 conferences, and you throw in the Big East and maybe the American in there, if you're in one of those 6 or 7 leagues, probably at least half the guys you should be signing should be top 150 recruits. And that's not to say that Rivals never misses and that rankings are always right, because they aren't. But the top 150 guys haven't really been there for Missouri. They've largely been signing guys that didn't have a lot of other options. And as I just said, in 3 years, they signed 5 that your first reaction was, hold on, what? I don't get it. And thus far, none of those 5 guys have panned out. Jordan Wilmore's the last one that still has a chance to, and you don't write off a guy 2 games into his sophomore season, but you got to see something soon there. So we'll finish this up with Jake's question. This is a recruiting show, but I kind of opened the can of worms there. So it says better than 50-50 chance Konzo is back next year because you simply can't make a quality hire after May 1st. Yeah, I think there's absolutely a better than 50-50 chance. So I posted the contract information last night on our message board. And a lot of you guys have probably seen it, but maybe you're listening to this and you didn't see it. So here's the situation. His contract, basically, because Missouri made the NCAA tournament last year, Missouri is now contractually not allowed to fire him until May 1st. Now, does that mean, we understand things can happen, right? Is it possible Desiree Reed-Francois goes to him after this year? Let's say they end up 7-24 or whatever, right? Then they might not, right? They might end up, this might be a blip, and they might actually be closer to the 500 team that I thought they'd be before the year. I understand that doesn't look likely today, but it's not impossible. But let's say for the sake of this argument that they have a really down year that makes Missouri think, man, we got to move on. Could they go to Konzo and say, hey, your contract says we can't fire you till May 1st, but let's agree to this and get you your $6 million and just move on? Is it possible? I guess. But literally, what incentive is there for him to say yes to that? I mean, why? If I'm him, if I'm his agent, I go, nah, it's cool. I'm going to hang out. You want to fire me May 1st? You fire me May 1st, but I'm going to do my job till then. I don't know. I think and once May 1st comes again, who are you hiring? It's not impossible, but most of the coaches are hired by then. So, yes, I would say it's better than 50-50 chance Cuonzo Martin's coaching this team next year. And I understand we're going to have this conversation after every loss. Like, this is what we do. It's reached that point. We need to understand he made the NCAA tournament last year. Like, Cuonzo Martin should not have been fired. He has done a fine job. Has it been as good as people hoped? Has it been elite? No, but he's done a solid job here in 4 years at Missouri. I understand why everybody is super upset about last night. Frankly, I've put some things out there that would indicate, hey, this isn't good enough and this isn't going to work. And all those things can be true, and we can have this conversation every single week until late March. It is going to be exhausting, but I understand now. I've done it enough times. I understand that's the point we're at. We did it with Barry Odom. We did it with Kim Anderson. We did it with Quinn Snyder. Like, I've done this long enough to know we're going to have this conversation every week. But yeah, I'd say as of today, I would not expect that Missouri makes a coaching change at the end of this year. So we'll see. That's where we're at. Just wanted to kind of catch you guys up on all the hoop stuff. Appreciate Sean Williams hanging out to do the football stuff. And tomorrow we'll have the 573 report tomorrow afternoon with Mitchell Forty. We'll preview Florida on Thursday. We'll do the last pick show of the year, at least regular season on Friday. We're going to do a bowl edition, but last regular season pick show on Friday. Schedule's going to be a little bit different next week because of Thanksgiving and all that. But thanks for hanging out, guys, and we will talk to you later on. Two things. Before you leave, if you're watching live, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Those things help us share what we're doing here, tweet out a link to the show, whatever. If you are listening on the podcast, leave a nice review, hit the 5 stars, say good things about me, or if you don't say good things about me, at least say good things about Sean. He does a nice job here. So would appreciate that. And also, if you are getting into the point where you're looking maybe to buy a new house, looking to refinance the one you have, look, winter is actually a pretty good time to buy a house, right? Because people are always buying in spring. Sometimes you want to do something when maybe it's not quite as busy, not quite as many people on the market. Sometimes you can get a better deal there. Well, the person you need to get in touch with is former Missouri Tiger football player and staffer, actually, Brandon Barnes, over at USA Mortgage, 573-818-2772. 573-590-0001 are the numbers where you can get in touch with Brandon. He's going to give you great customer service and competitive rates on whatever it is you're looking to do in the mortgage business. Again, whether you're moving into a new place, whether you're building a place, whether you're refinancing the one you have, whatever it might be, Brandon Barnes is your guy. As we do with everybody that's helped us out and sponsored these shows and made our daily appearances throughout the season possible, we just ask you to give Brandon a shot first, right? If you go out and you find a better deal or you find somebody you like more, so be it. That's the way that business is done, but we don't think you will. We think you'll end up coming back to Brandon, and certainly encourage you guys to check him out. So thanks to Brandon. Thanks to all you guys watching and listening, and we will talk to you later.